The colony world had been dead for years. What was once a proud settlement of steel towers and bright lights had crumbled into broken streets and half-buried ruins. The skies hung heavy with smoke and dust, painted red by a dying sun. Captain Marcus tightened the strap on his rifle as he moved cautiously through the rubble. His boots crunched against shattered glass. He had seen dead worlds before, but this one was different. It wasn't just abandoned, it felt watched. Every collapsed building seemed to hold its breath, waiting for something to stir. His orders were simple: scout the ruins, check for survivors, and signal the fleet if he found anything of value. Marcus didn't expect much. Most survivors had either fled years ago or been hunted down by alien patrols. Still, he moved carefully, the instincts of a soldier whispering that danger could be hiding anywhere. It was then he saw her. A ragged woman sat hunched near the base of a collapsed wall, her cloak tattered and grey with ash. Two children clung to her sides, their small faces hidden under scraps of cloth. They looked like beggars, forgotten strays who had somehow survived the Empire's purge. Marcus slowed his pace, narrowing his eyes. Something about them didn't fit. Most starving survivors would rush to him, desperate for food, for water, for hope. But she didn't. She just sat there, her gaze flicking to the clouds, then back to the shadows between the buildings, watching, measuring. The children, too, were wrong. They didn't cry. They didn't move. They stayed perfectly still, their posture too controlled for their age. It was as if they were trained. Marcus adjusted his grip on his weapon, unease settling in his gut. He had seen beggars, refugees, soldiers, spies. He knew the difference. This woman was no ordinary survivor. He stepped closer, boots crunching louder now. "Are you there?" he called, his voice firm but not unkind. "It's safe. I'm with the Human Defense Fleet. I can get you out." The woman didn't answer, her head tilted slightly, as though she were listening to something far away. The children leaned in closer to her sides but still said nothing. Marcus frowned. He took another step, scanning her cloak. That was when he saw it, a glint of metal half hidden beneath the folds of fabric. Sleek, curved, and unmistakably alien. His breath caught. No beggar carried tech like that. No human had access to it, not here on a ruined fringe world. Marcus lifted his rifle, not pointing it at her, but ready. "Who are you?" he demanded. "Show me your hands." Slowly, the woman turned her head toward him. Her eyes met his, cold and unflinching. There was no fear in them, only calculation. For a heartbeat, the ruins around them seemed to fall silent. Then the ground shook. A low rumble spread through the broken city, rattling loose stones and sending a cloud of dust drifting from the shattered rooftops. Marcus knew that sound too well, the approach of war machines. Alien engines, heavy, deliberate, closing in fast. The woman stood in one smooth motion. Her children pressed tighter against her legs, but still they didn't panic. She placed one hand on the nearest child's shoulder, her gaze locked on the street ahead. Marcus shifted his stance, rifle raised now. "They're coming," he said. "We need to move now." The woman didn't look at him. Instead, she whispered to her children, her voice low but steady. "Stay behind me." Her cloak slipped as she moved, revealing more of the weapon hidden beneath, a long, slender piece of alien design, humming faintly with restrained power. Marcus's pulse quickened. Whoever she wasn't just some lost refugee. The rumble grew louder. The harsh screech of metal against stone echoed through the street as the first alien drone turned the corner, its glowing sensors sweeping the area. Behind it, more shapes advanced, towering machines with weapons primed. Marcus raised his rifle, heart pounding. He glanced at the woman, expecting fear, desperation, anything human. Instead, he saw only resolve. Her children clung to her cloak, their eyes wide but silent. They trusted her completely. Marcus realized then that he was no longer sure who needed saving. The woman's hand closed around the alien weapon. The air seemed to shiver as she powered it on, its glow spilling from beneath her rags. She looked nothing like a beggar now. She looked like someone who belonged on a battlefield. The drone let out a mechanical shriek and charged. The woman stepped forward, her voice sharp and commanding. "Behind me!" Marcus hesitated only a moment before moving to her side. He didn't know who she was or what she was doing here, but one thing was certain. This was no ordinary survivor. And as the machines closed in, He had the chilling sense that the true story of this woman was only just beginning. The first alien drone lunged forward, its metallic claws digging into the rubble as it locked onto the woman and her children. Its red optics pulsed brighter, preparing to fire. Before Marcus could aim, the woman moved. Her ragged cloak tore away as she spun, revealing the weapon she had hidden beneath. Sleek and black, it was nothing Marcus had ever seen in human hands before. The barrel split into glowing arcs, humming with alien energy. With one sharp gesture, she fired. A bolt of searing light struck the drone, tearing through its armor. The machine shrieked, staggered, and collapsed in a heap of burning metal. Marcus froze. He had faced drones before. Squadrons of them had slaughtered entire platoons. But this woman had dropped one in a single shot. Her stance, her timing, even the way she swept the weapon to track the next target, it was all too perfect. This was no accident. She knew exactly what she was doing. More drones poured into the street, crawling over walls, hovering low between ruined buildings. Their engines filled the air with a bone-shaking whine. Marcus steadied his rifle and opened fire, bullets sparking against enemy armor. But it was clear his weapon barely slowed them down. The woman, however, cut them down with frightening precision. Each pull of the trigger unleashed a blast that turned steel into molten shards. Her movements were calm, efficient, like a soldier trained from birth. She ducked low to avoid incoming fire, rolled across the cracked ground and fired again, never missing, never hesitating. The children stayed huddled behind the wall she had chosen, perfectly hidden, perfectly silent. Even when explosions shook the ground around them, they did not scream. They obeyed her word without question, as though this was not the first time they had lived through a firefight. Marcus's mind raced. Who was this woman? No refugee should even have access to alien weaponry, much less know how to use it like this. And yet she fought with the confidence of a veteran commander. Another drone screeched, as Marcus put a burst into its optic, buying himself time. He ducked behind a broken pillar, sweat running down his face. Over the roar of weapons, he shouted toward her. "Who are you?" The woman didn't answer. She was too busy dropping another drone, then spinning to shield her children from a spray of fire. "Damn it," Marcus cursed. His instincts told him to retreat, but something deeper urged him to stay. She wasn't just surviving this fight, she was controlling it. She was the reason those children were still alive, and if he left, she might not hesitate to finish the fight without him. One of the larger drones pushed forward, towering over the others. Its plasma cannon charged, glowing white-hot. Marcus braced himself. He knew that blast would level half the street. The woman didn't flinch. She surged forward, leaping onto a fallen slab of concrete. Her weapon flared brighter than before, a high-pitched whine filling the air. She fired, the shot punching through the cannon's core. The machine erupted in a shower of sparks and fire, collapsing onto the ruins in a smoking heap. The ground shook with the impact. Dust and debris rained down from broken walls. For a moment there was silence. Marcus lowered his rifle, his ears ringing. His heart pounded in his chest as he stared at her. The woman stood tall, her weapon still glowing faintly in her hand. Her cloak hung in tatters around her, revealing armor beneath, lightweight, alien in design, with the faint insignia of a crest scratched into its surface. She looked nothing like a beggar now. Her children ran to her side, and she crouched briefly to check them over. They were unharmed. Only then did she look back at Marcus. Her eyes met his again, sharp, unyielding. For the first time, he saw more than just calculation in them. He saw authority, command, a presence that could not be faked. Marcus swallowed hard. He kept his rifle lowered, but his voice came out rough. "You're no refugee," she didn't reply. Instead, she adjusted her weapon, scanning the horizon for more incoming threats. The way she moved, the way her children shadowed her without hesitation, it was all too disciplined. Marcus's mind was racing now. He had heard whispers before, rumors of alien defectors, traitors who turned their backs on the Empire, but never had he seen one with his own eyes. And never one who looked like this. He stepped closer, voice tense. "That weapon, that armor, I've seen fragments of that crest before. It belongs to them, doesn't it?" "The Thalerans." The woman's expression didn't change, but her silence told him enough. Marcus felt a chill crawl down his spine. The Thalerans were the most feared empire in the galaxy, ruthless, ancient, and proud. Their rulers, The 5 princesses of the celestial court were untouchable. And this woman carried their mark. The dust cleared around them, the echoes of the fight fading. Marcus realized he was standing in the ruins with someone far more dangerous than any soldier he had ever known, and she was still hiding something. She finally spoke. Her voice calm, almost too calm for the devastation around her. The dust settled slowly, curling through the ruins like smoke from a dying fire. The last of the drones lay scattered across the rubble, their wreckage glowing faintly with sparks. Marcus lowered his rifle, his pulse still hammering. He had fought for years against machines like these, but never, not once, had he seen someone tear through them alone. And certainly not a woman who, minutes earlier, had looked like a half-starved beggar shielding 2 children. Now her cloak hung in tatters, exposing armor of alien craft, its smooth plates designed for grace as much as protection. She adjusted the weapon in her grip, its humming core fading to a low throb. Marcus's gut twisted. He couldn't stop staring at the insignia faintly scratched into the armor, a sigil he recognized from captured reports. The Thalaran crest. He took a step forward, dust crunching under his boot. "That crest," he said, voice sharp. "It's theirs, isn't it?" "The Thalarans." "You're carrying their mark." The woman didn't answer. She only checked the charge on her weapon, the gesture practiced and efficient. Marcus's hands tightened on his rifle. "Talk to me." "Who are you?" "What are you doing here?" Her eyes flicked up, locking on him with a look so steady it froze him mid-step. There was no fear in her gaze, no pleading. Just a cool assessment, as though she were deciding if he was worth answering at all. "Leave," she said at last. Her voice was calm, even quiet, but edged with finality. "This is not your fight." Marcus felt heat rise in his chest. "Not my fight? You think I can just walk away? I just watched you burn through a squadron of drones like you were born for it. And those kids," he glanced at the children, still pressed close to her legs, unnervingly silent. "They move like soldiers, trained, disciplined. That doesn't happen by accident. What are you hiding?" The woman said nothing. Marcus took another step closer, pointing toward her weapon. "That's alien tech, high grade. Humans don't touch it, don't even get near it without being vaporized. Yet you wield it like it's an extension of your own arm. And that crest," he jabbed a finger toward her chest plate. "I've seen it in every intelligence briefing since the war began. That's the symbol of their royal house. You want to tell me why a supposed beggar is carrying it?" Her jaw tightened, but she didn't answer. "Damn it," Marcus hissed, lowering his rifle but not his guard. He turned slightly, scanning the ruins. The silence around them was too sharp, too heavy. "More will come. They always send reinforcements. And if they're after you, then I need to know what you are. Because if you're one of them—" He cut himself off, his voice low now. "If you're one of them, I can't afford to trust you." Her gaze flicked toward the horizon, where the sky still shimmered faintly with the glow of alien engines. She didn't deny it. The children shifted against her sides. One of them, a boy no older than 10, lifted his eyes to Marcus. There was something strange in his expression. Not fear, not innocence, a quiet awareness. A soldier's stillness in a child's frame. Marcus's stomach sank. The woman finally spoke, her words carrying a weight that silenced the ruins. "If you value your life, soldier, you will leave this place now. You have seen enough." Marcus stared at her, disbelief cutting through him. She wasn't begging for help. She wasn't thanking him for his presence. She was warning him. He thought of the countless refugees he had pulled from wreckage, the hollow-eyed survivors who clung to him as if he were their last hope. This woman was nothing like them. She didn't need him. If anything, she seemed burdened by his presence, but Marcus couldn't let it go. Not when he had seen what she could do. Not when the crest on her chest screamed that she belonged to the very empire humanity had been bleeding to resist. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Are you a Thalaran?" The words seemed to hang in the air, heavier than the dust and smoke. For a long moment she didn't move. Then, at last, her gaze snapped back to him. Her eyes narrowed, sharp and dangerous. Marcus's breath hitched. She didn't need to answer. He already knew. He raised his rifle halfway, torn between instinct and hesitation. If she was one of them, he should fire. That was what training demanded. But she had fought the drones, not him. She had shielded her children, not abandoned them. She had saved his life. Confusion warred with duty inside him, Before he could decide, a distant roar broke the silence. The ground trembled again. Marcus swore under his breath. More engines, reinforcements. The woman turned away from him, her weapon sliding back into her grip with fluid ease. "They will not stop until they find us," she said. Her voice was calm again, but now edged with something else, resignation. She motioned to her children, who instantly pressed closer, their small hands clutching at her cloak. Marcus stood frozen, torn between orders and instinct. He had every reason to turn her in, every reason to distrust her. But as the roar of approaching machines grew louder, he knew one thing for certain: this woman wasn't done fighting, and whether he wanted it or not, neither was he. The roar grew louder, a grinding chorus of engines and metallic shrieks rolling through the ruins. Marcus felt the vibration in his bones. Reinforcements, larger, heavier, and in greater numbers than before. The woman didn't waste another word. She pulled her children close, then sprinted toward the shadows of a crumbling street. The children moved with her in perfect unison, never tripping, never slowing. Marcus cursed under his breath, torn for half a heartbeat. He could stay, hold position, and call for an extraction, if the fleet even answered. Or he could follow her. Against all reason, against every scrap of training screaming inside him, he ran after her. They darted through the rubble, boots slamming against cracked stone. Behind them, the first wave of machines thundered into view, hulking forms with glowing cores and weapons bristling from their frames. Searchlights swept across the ruins, painting everything in stark white beams. The woman didn't falter. She twisted through a collapsed alley, ducked into a half-buried tunnel, and kept her pace steady. Marcus followed, struggling to match her effortless speed. The children moved like shadows, small but impossibly precise. Gunfire erupted behind them. Energy bolts cracked through the air, blasting apart walls and sending showers of sparks raining down. Marcus stumbled as a blast shattered the pavement near his feet, but the woman didn't slow. She raised her alien weapon and fired backward mid-run, striking one of the searchlights and plunging part of the ruin into darkness. Marcus kept close, breathing hard. "Where the hell are you leading us?" "Somewhere they can't follow," she snapped without looking back. Her voice carried no panic, only focus. The same tone Marcus had heard from commanders in the heat of battle. They reached the mouth of an underground tunnel, jagged stone reinforced by rusted metal beams. Without hesitation, she ushered her children inside. Marcus followed, the darkness swallowing them whole. Inside, the air was thick with dust and the faint stench of decay. Their footsteps echoed in the confined space, every sound amplified. Marcus's rifle light cut through the blackness, sweeping over skeletal remains of old supply crates and abandoned machines. "Do you know this place?" he asked, his voice low. The woman didn't answer. Her children stayed pressed close to her legs, their small eyes reflecting faint glimmers of light. Above them, the sound of engines rumbled. The machines were spreading through the ruins, their claws scraping against stone. Searchlights pierced cracks in the tunnel ceiling, spilling thin beams of light across their path. Marcus's chest tightened. They were hunting them like rats. The woman raised her hand sharply, signaling for silence. She listened, tilting her head slightly. Marcus noticed again how unnatural it felt, like she was tuned to frequencies he couldn't hear. Then, without a word, she pressed forward again. The tunnel sloped downward, deeper into the earth. Marcus followed reluctantly, every instinct screaming at him to climb back up to get to open air. But something about her certainty pulled him on. A thunderous crash split the silence. A section of the tunnel ahead exploded inward as a drone burst through, its bulk smashing a side stone. Its optics flared red as it locked onto them. Marcus raised his rifle and fired, bullets sparking uselessly against the machine's armor. The woman shoved her children behind her, her weapon flashing as she fired a concentrated blast into the drone's chest. The machine reeled but didn't fall. "Move!" she barked. Marcus sprinted forward, helping the children scramble past as debris rained down. The woman fired again, this time striking the drone's core. It shrieked and collapsed, blocking the tunnel behind them with smoking wreckage. The ground trembled again, more were coming. They pressed on until the tunnel opened into a vast underground chamber. Faint beams of light filtered through cracks in the ceiling, illuminating rusted walkways and the broken shell of what once looked like a maintenance hub. The woman paused, scanning the chamber. "Here," she said at last. "We hold them here. Marcus turned to her in disbelief. Hold them. Are you insane? You saw what's chasing us. Half a platoon's worth of machines. We can't fight that here. Her eyes cut to him, sharp and cold. You can leave if you want, but they'll find you no matter where you go. At least here we have walls. Marcus stared at her, frustration burning hot in his chest. He wanted to demand answers, to know why she fought like this, why her children followed orders like soldiers, why she wore the crest of humanity's greatest enemy. But the heavy footsteps echoing through the tunnel behind them left no time. The underground chamber echoed with the metallic screech of drones battering against the collapsed tunnel behind them. Sparks rained down as claws scraped at stone, the machines forcing their way through. Marcus steadied his rifle, sweat trickling down his temple. They'll break through soon, he said. And we won't hold them here for long. The woman stood near the far wall, her children pressed close against her sides. She wasn't watching the tunnel. She was watching him. Her weapon glowed faintly, but for the first time since he had met her, she lowered it. Why are they after you? Marcus demanded, his voice rough. You've been running, hiding, fighting them with their own weapons. Tell me the truth or I walk away right now. The woman's jaw tightened. Her eyes flicked toward her children, then back to him. For a moment, Marcus thought she would stay silent again, just as she had before. But then she spoke. My name, she said quietly, is Selora. Marcus frowned. The name meant nothing to him. She took a slow breath. Selora of Thalora, second daughter of the Celestial Court. The words hit Marcus like a blow. He stared at her, his throat dry. The court, the rulers of the Thalaran Empire, the 5 alien princesses who commanded entire fleets with a gesture. Legends of cruelty and power, and she was claiming to be one of them. No, Marcus muttered, shaking his head. That's impossible. You're saying you're a princess, she finished for him. Her voice was steady, but there was no pride in it. Only weariness. Marcus felt his chest tighten. He remembered the stories soldiers told in hushed voices about the 5 princesses of Thalora, beings of terrifying beauty and ruthless command. They were untouchable, distant, and merciless. Yet here she stood before him, cloaked in ash and dust, a fugitive with 2 children clinging to her armor. You expect me to believe that? Marcus said, his voice sharp. That one of the most powerful rulers in the galaxy is hiding in a ruin playing beggar? Selora's eyes narrowed. You saw me fight. You saw my weapon. You know the crest I bear. Do you think a common soldier could wield these? Marcus hesitated. He had no answer. Her gaze softened slightly, though her voice remained cold. I left the court. I left the Empire. I will never return. Marcus barked a laugh, though it carried no humor. Why would you leave? You had everything, power, armies, a throne. What could possibly make you run? Selora looked down at her children. The boy met her eyes calmly, and the girl leaned against her side, silent but alert. Because I chose them, Selora said. Marcus froze. They are mine, she continued, her voice firm now. Half Thalaran, half human. Proof of what the court despises most. Weakness, taint. A princess defiling herself with a human. The Empire would never allow them to live. So I ran. The chamber seemed to grow colder. Marcus's mind reeled. Her children, half human? He looked at them again, seeing what he had missed before. The strange sharpness in their features, the unnatural stillness, the disciplined silence. They weren't ordinary children. They were something in between. And the Empire is hunting you, Marcus said slowly, piecing it together. Selora's eyes darkened, not just because of them. Because of what I know. Her hand tightened on her weapon. The court has built something. A weapon unlike anything seen before. A machine that can strip entire worlds bare. They call it the Starforger. Marcus's stomach dropped. He had heard rumors of Thalaran projects. Half-whispered fears passed through the fleet. But never something like this. You know where it is, he said. Selora nodded. I was part of the council that approved its construction. But I could not let it happen. Not again. Too many worlds have burned already. So I fled. And I took the secret with me. Marcus stepped back, his mind racing. If she was telling the truth, she carried knowledge that could change the entire war. And yet she was a Thalaran princess. One of their rulers. Could he trust her? The tunnel behind them shuddered. A claw tore through the rock, sparks flying as a drone forced its way into the chamber. Selora turned to her children. She crouched, placing her hands gently on their shoulders. "Stay behind me," she whispered. The boy nodded, the girl tightening her grip on her cloak. Marcus lifted his rifle again, torn between instincts. He should arrest her. He should radio command, tell them what he had found. But as he looked at her children, small and silent, pressed against their mother, he hesitated. Selora rose, weapon glowing brighter now. She stood tall, no longer the ragged beggar Marcus had stumbled upon, but something far greater and far more dangerous. She glanced at him, her expression unreadable. "Now you know who I am. Decide quickly, Captain. Fight beside me or stay out of my way." The drones broke through the wall in a screech of metal and fire. Marcus's choice would decide everything. The first drone clawed through the rubble, its red sensors burning like coals in the dark. The hiss of plasma cutters filled the chamber as more machines forced their way in. The air grew hot, choking with dust and sparks. Marcus raised his rifle, finger hovering on the trigger, but his thoughts churned louder than the enemy's screeches. A princess of the Thalaran court, half-human children, knowledge of a weapon that could burn entire worlds. He should call command. He should turn her in. That was his duty. Yet when he glanced at her children, the boy calm but tense, the girl clutching her mother's cloak with silent fear, his certainty fractured. Selora's voice cut through the noise. "Captain! Decide now!" The lead drone broke free, a hulking insect of metal and blades. It unfolded, standing taller than a man, its sore arm shrieking to life. Marcus aimed and fired. The rifle spat white heat, burning a hole through the drone's sensor. The machine toppled, crashing against the chamber floor. But more followed, swarming through the breach. Selora moved with sudden grace, her weapon singing with blue fire. She slashed through a pair of drones, sparks exploding around her. Her children crouched low behind her, trained to move without panic. Marcus fought at her side, his doubts clashing with every shot. She was real, too real. No common refugee could fight like this. And if she spoke the truth, then she carried the fate of countless worlds. The chamber shook as another drone charged. Selora spun, her weapon carving through its torso. She didn't look at Marcus when she spoke. "If you stay, Captain, then you are bound to this secret. There will be no going back." Marcus fired into another machine, gritting his teeth. "And if I leave?" Her eyes flicked to him, sharp and unreadable. "Then you leave us to die." The words cut deeper than any blade. Two drones leapt at once. Marcus dropped one with a shot to its core, but the second slammed into him. He fell hard, his rifle clattering across the stone. The machine's claw clamped around his arm, pressing down with mechanical strength. Selora struck, her blade slicing the drone apart in a burst of sparks. She pulled Marcus to his feet with surprising strength. Their eyes met, his full of conflict, hers steady, burning with something he couldn't name. "You saved me," Marcus said hoarsely. "You saved my children first," she answered. The drones kept coming. A dozen now, pouring through the breach like a tide. The chamber would not hold. Selora pressed a hand to a device on her wrist. A low hum built in the air, and a circle of symbols flared beneath their feet. Thalaran tech shimmering with strange light. Marcus stiffened. "What is that?" "An escape field," Selora said, "but it will not last long. It requires power I cannot keep feeding." Marcus retrieved his rifle, chest heaving. He realized this was it. His choice. If he fought beside her, he would become a traitor in the eyes of his own command. Protecting an alien princess, shielding half-blood children, carrying knowledge of the Starforger. His entire career, his entire life would burn. If he turned her in, the court might seize her, silence her, erase her children from existence. Humanity might never learn of the Starforger until it was too late. The hum of the field grew louder. The drones drew closer, relentless. Selora's eyes locked onto his, fierce and unyielding. "Decide, Marcus. Trust me or condemn us." For a heartbeat, time seemed to freeze. He saw the fear in the girl's grip, the boy's quiet courage, Selora's strength, not of a ruler cloaked in power, but of a mother defending her children. Marcus raised his rifle again. He turned toward the breach and he fired, shot after shot, blazing heat tearing into the machines. He fought like a man possessed, covering Selora as she cut down the rest. Together, they forced the swarm back toward the rubble. Sparks and broken metal littered the floor, smoke filling the air. At last, silence fell. Marcus stood trembling, chest heaving, rifle almost empty. Salora lowered her weapon, its glow dimming. Her children crept forward, pressing close against her. She regarded Marcus for a long moment. Not with triumph, not with arrogance, but with quiet recognition. "You chose," she said softly. Marcus exhaled, his voice rough. "There, I chose." But inside the storm still raged. He had sided with her. With a fugitive princess, with a truth that could tear the galaxy apart, and there was no turning back. The chamber walls shook as the drones poured through the breach, claws screeching against stone. Red sensors burned through the haze, their metallic bodies glinting in the dim light. Marcus gritted his teeth, forcing his trembling hands to steady on the rifle. There was no turning back now. He had chosen. Salora stood tall beside him, cloak shredded, weapon glowing like liquid lightning. Her children clung close, their eyes wide yet disciplined. The hum of the escape field pulsed beneath their feet, blue sigils flickering with unstable light. "Hold them off," Salora barked, her voice sharp as steel. Marcus fired into the advancing machines, his shots tearing through the first line. Sparks burst, metal shrieked. But for every drone that fell, 2 more forced their way in. The tide was endless. Salora swept her blade in a wide arc, slicing through a trio of drones in one motion. She moved like a storm, calm, precise, lethal. Marcus had fought beside seasoned soldiers, but nothing like this. The way she fought was almost frightening. And yet she bled. A shallow cut across her arm dripped crimson, proof she wasn't untouchable. "Marcus!" she shouted. He spun and dropped another drone before it reached the children. His chest heaved, lungs burning. He knew the truth now. They couldn't hold this chamber forever. Fields breaking down, Salora warned, glancing at the glowing circle. "If it collapses before we trigger it, we're finished." Marcus clenched his jaw. "Then we make it hold long enough." The next wave surged forward, larger, heavier. One drone, twice the size of the others, crashed into the chamber like a living tank. Its plasma cannon whined as it powered up. Salora threw herself between it and her children. The cannon fired. Blue-white fire roared, blinding. Marcus dove, dragging the children down as the blast seared past. Heat washed over them, scorching the wall to molten slag. Salora staggered, her cloak aflame. She ripped it free and hurled it aside, her eyes blazing. Then she raised her weapon high, symbols across the blade igniting brighter than ever. With a furious cry, she struck. The blade cleaved through the massive drone, splitting it down the center. Its body convulsed, sparks flying before it crashed lifeless to the ground. Marcus pushed himself up, staring. For the first time he saw the raw power of a princess unleashed, not the arrogance of a ruler, but the desperation of a mother. The chamber floor trembled. The sigils flared dangerously. "It's ready," Salora shouted. "We must go now." Marcus grabbed the children, guiding them into the circle. The boy held steady. The girl pressed against his chest, trembling but silent. Salora joined them, her blade still crackling with energy. She knelt quickly, pressing her palm against the sigils. The field roared to life, blue light shooting upward in a pillar. The drones lunged, claws stretched out, sparks flying as they charged for the kill. The world dissolved. Light engulfed them, a tearing sensation ripping Marcus's stomach. For a breathless instant, he thought they were being shredded apart. Then the ground slammed back under his feet. Silence. The chamber was gone. The drones were gone. They stood in a wasteland outside the ruined city, stars glimmering coldly overhead. The field flickered once, then collapsed, leaving only scorched stone behind. Marcus staggered, nearly dropping his rifle. His ears rang, his body trembling. He turned. Salora was on one knee, her children clinging to her. Her face was pale, sweat dripping down her temples. She had used more power than her body could bear, but they were alive. Marcus sank down beside them, his voice hoarse. "We made it." Salora met his gaze. For once the iron hardness in her eyes softened. "For now." The children huddled close. The boy asked quietly, "Mother, will they follow?" "Yes," Salora answered. She brushed a strand of hair from his face, then looked up at Marcus. "They will never stop. Not until I am silenced, or until the Starforger is destroyed." The name chilled him all over again. Marcus forced himself to breathe. "Then we'll have to find it first." Salora's lips curved into the faintest smile, sad, tired, but real. "You speak as though you've already chosen to stand with us." Marcus looked at her, at the children, at the empty wasteland stretching toward the horizon. He thought of his command, of the orders he was breaking, of the punishment that would surely await him if he ever returned. He thought of the fire in Celora's strike, the courage in her son's eyes, the innocence in her daughter's quiet grip. Finally he nodded. I did choose. Back there, and I won't take it back. Celora's shoulders eased just slightly. She reached out, placing a hand on his arm, a gesture not of command but of trust. Then humanity's fate, she said softly, is bound to ours. In the distance, the night sky flickered. A streak of light, alien ships searching. The hunt was far from over. Marcus tightened his grip on his rifle. Celora gathered her children close. Together they stepped into the wasteland, shadows swallowed by the starlit dark. The war was not ending. It was only beginning. And now Marcus knew the survival of his people might rest in the hands of the fugitive princess he had once mistaken for a beggar. The wasteland stretched endless before them, a graveyard of broken stone and rusting steel. Once this had been farmland green with rivers and life. Now, under the cold starlight, it was nothing but ash and silence. Marcus adjusted his rifle strap and kept his eyes scanning the horizon. Every shadow looked like a drone, every flicker in the sky a ship's beacon. He knew the Empire would never give up. They had seen Celora alive. That was enough to rouse the court's fury. Celora moved ahead, her children close behind. Her cloak, burned and torn, dragged across the dust. Even exhausted, she carried herself with a strange dignity, no longer disguised as a beggar, but not quite a princess either. Somewhere between, at last Marcus broke the silence. Where are we going? Celora didn't look back. Underground. There are tunnels beyond these plains. Old rebel hideouts, built during the first uprising. We'll find shelter there. Marcus frowned. And after that? Her voice dropped low but steady. After that we move for the Star Forger. The name hung in the air like thunder. Marcus glanced at the children, but neither reacted with fear. They had heard it before. He narrowed his eyes. You keep saying that word like I should know it. I've heard whispers, but never from someone who would know the truth. What is it, Celora? Celora slowed. For a long moment she was silent. Then she looked over her shoulder. The wind tugged at her hair, silver in the starlight, and her eyes held a weight that made Marcus's chest tighten. The Star Forger, she said quietly, is not a weapon in the way you think. It is not a bomb or a cannon. It is a forge, ancient, older than my empire, older than your species. It can shape stars themselves. With it, the court could turn suns into weapons. Burn worlds from light years away. Marcus stopped walking. The wasteland seemed colder, darker. He forced the words out. And you? You know where it is. Celora nodded once. Yes, the children exchanged a glance. The boy's jaw tightened, as though carrying a burden too heavy for his age. Marcus raked a hand over his face. So that's why they're hunting you. Not because you ran from the court, because you hold the key to a god machine. Celora's expression did not change. Yes, for a while they walked in silence, the weight of her words crushing. At last Marcus said, You realize if what you're saying is true, no army, no fleet could resist the court if they controlled it. That, Celora said, her voice colder than the night, is why I ran, and why I will never let them reach it. They pressed on. Hours blurred, the wasteland unchanging. The children moved without complaint, disciplined beyond their years. Marcus found himself studying them. The boy's steady stride, the girl's quiet vigilance. Not ordinary children, he saw it now. Half human, yes, but trained with purpose. Finally, he asked the question that gnawed at him. Why trust me? Why not keep running alone? Celora slowed, then stopped. She turned to face him fully, the starlight catching the scar along her cheek. Because, she said softly, you chose when you did not have to. You saved my children even when you doubted me. That makes you dangerous to my enemies. It makes you worth trusting. Marcus felt something stir in his chest, unease. Pride, maybe both. Before he could answer, the night sky split with light. A streak burned across the horizon. No meteor, but a ship's engine trail. Red beacons flashed, and the hum of distant thrusters carried across the plains. Celora's head snapped up. Her eyes hardened. They found us. Marcus cursed under his breath. We can't outrun ships in the open. Where are these tunnels? 2 miles east, Celora said quickly. If we move now, we might make it. The children tightened their cloaks. Celora gripped her weapon. Marcus raised his rifle. Together they ran, dust kicked up under their boots. The streak in the sky grew brighter, closer. Engines roared and the ground trembled. Marcus risked a glance back and saw the ship descending, black and silver, its wings cutting the air like blades. Searchlights burst from its hull, sweeping across the plains, faster. Zelora urged. The children kept pace, their small figures darting through the dust. Marcus's lungs burned, his legs screaming, but he pushed on. The ground shifted underfoot, stone giving way to broken concrete. Ahead, half buried under rubble, Marcus saw the dark outline of a hatch there. He shouted. They sprinted. The ship descended behind them, claws unfolding, drones dropping like rain. Red eyes lit the dark, scanning, hunting. Zelora reached the hatch first. She slammed her weapon against the seal. Blue light surged, and the lock hissed open.